Om Shanti, how are you all? So today we are going to answer the question posed by a brother with an ID called Goldberg, and his question is: I have been fantasizing women's body all the time, and now I always fantasize about her private parts. So what should I do to get out of this? Because I'm going crazy. So that's his question. So that is not only his problem, that is the problem of all men. So we can blame media for this condition of present day boys and older men, and possibly girls, because one sister called Ahana, she said in her channel, YouTube channel, she said that whenever she sees a woman on the street, she started fantasizing her without dress. So she herself is a woman, and she even acknowledged that she is not a lesbian or homosexual. But still, after watching so many pornographic materials, she couldn't come out of it. So that is the main reason, because now in this internet era, it is very easy for anybody to get hands on porn anytime they want. But one good news with this brother is he has realized that it is something wrong that we should come out of, or else it would lead to committing sins like rape or adultery or child abuse, something like that. Because all those sins were committed by those who had this problem initially, and they didn't seek any sort of remedy to come out of it. Instead, they just fueled it more and more by watching more and more porn, by speaking with friends who add fuel to this problem by speaking very bad things about women's body. Now, if we really want to come out of it, we should see were there any time in our life that we didn't have this problem. Of course, there were times in our childhood that we didn't have any problem. We didn't fantasize like this up to certain age. But it is only after coming in contact with friends who talk badly about girls and exposing ourselves to movies, which in turn lead us to watch pornographic materials, that we eventually become those who get obsessed with girls' private parts. So what he actually wants is, he wants to get back to his childhood when he was totally innocent of these things. So by doing so, what can he achieve? He will achieve the kind of happiness that he once enjoyed as a child. Yes, nobody knows that. Just think for a moment how happy we were in our childhood when we were totally innocent of these sexual materials. We were very happy. We didn't need anything, but still we were very happy with our friends, with anything. But now we may have all the things, but still, after going to this stage when our mind is preoccupied with these erotic thoughts all the time, the only thing that can satisfy us is nothing but sex. And it's impossible for anybody to get that all the time, partly because you get bored with your wife very soon. So because your mind needs something new all the time, that is why people get addicted to watching pornography. And they don't even want to watch a single pornographic movie for the second time, because even that becomes bored for them. So that's not the case some 10 to 20 years back, because back then internet was not there. Even if they can have their hands on some pornographic material, that's very rare. So their mind didn't want to watch something new, because getting that itself is was very difficult back then. But now, due to this technology, all men and women have become so much addicted to pornographic things, which affects them emotionally, physically, and intellectually, because they can't concentrate on anything else. If it's a student who gets addicted like this, he couldn't concentrate on his studies. If it's someone who got married, then he is going to watch other women lustfully, so he is going to fantasize them. So obviously it would lead to illegal affairs or to some sort of prostitution. So what is the solution? The solution is pretty simple, because I remember someone saying that it is because girls cover their bodies, guys get curious. If they didn't cover like that, they wouldn't get curious. If that were true, then now everybody should have got bored of sex, because all pornographic materials are in abundance now. So the main thing is the media that creates curiosity in men by describing female body parts very lustfully, by exposing them. But it all starts from decent love songs, because that's the first step towards pornography. So people get hypnotized to think that it is natural for men and women to be in love. So likewise now they are hypnotized to believe that it is natural for them to have sexual attraction towards each other. So these media just make all the abnormal things normal by brainwashing us. Just how we were totally innocent in our childhood age, likewise even on daily basis when we wake up from bed, even then we wouldn't have those lustful thoughts, right? So our mind will be very fresh, ready to concentrate on anything we want. So that's the time we should make use of to come out of this habit of fantasizing women's body, because that is when the soul power is at its highest level, and as day progresses the soul power eventually decreases, and towards the night it almost loses most of its power. That is when we tend to get these lustful thoughts, then turn on television or internet and start watching something that turns them on. So that is why God asks us to go to bed as early as possible. By 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. you should go to bed, because after that everybody around you is spiritually weak. So they will all be possessed with these negative thoughts, that is these lustful thoughts. So that will in turn create negative vibration. So in that it is very difficult for you to come out of those lustful thoughts. So the best thing for you to do at that time is to go to sleep, and you should wake up as early as possible. by 2 a.m. If it's very difficult, at least by 4 a.m. you must wake up. Because if you have noticed, that is when you will have a very deep sleep. And after that, by 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., you will start having dreams, mostly dreams of sexual nature. Maybe by 4 or 3 a.m. you will get those dreams. That is the main reason God asked you to wake up and start remembering God as a point of light, because that's how God is. He resides in this golden red colored light world called soul world, or Parandam or Parlok. So God is also a point of light just like us. Yes, we souls also are a point of light that shines like a tiny star in between the eyebrows, which is why we have this habit of wearing red dot called bindi in India. So when we wake up, wash the face, if possible even take a bath, and sit in a place with your eyes open and start thinking of God Shiva, who is also called Allah by Muslims and Heavenly Godfather by Christians. God is one. So think of Him as a point of light and speak to Him wholeheartedly, and think of Him as your beloved Father, spiritual Father, only Father that loves you unconditionally forever. More you remember God, more you feel this inner silence, inner peace, and it would be very sweet, and you wouldn't want to come out of it after 1 hour of remembering God. That is called true yoga or meditation. Yoga itself means connecting our mind with God, the Supreme Soul. And what do we get by remembering God? The power of the soul is increased by remembering God, because God is ever powerful. The more you remember God, more your soul is going to be filled with power. So God teaches this towards the end of Kali Yuga, that is towards the end of the world. God comes to inform us that this world, which is hell now, because we see nothing but pain and suffering all around us. If you see anything happy, that's going to last for a very temporary period. Rest of the time it's going to be pain and suffering. That's why it is called hell. It's been hell for the past 2500 years. But before that, it was heaven for 2500 years. So that completes this cycle, time cycle called Kalpa, which constitutes of 5000 years. So God says it's this cycle, which means after the completion of heaven, this world is going to be converted to hell, and after the completion of hell, it's going to be converted to heaven. So this will go on forever without stopping. Now it's time for the world to become heaven again, and God gives this knowledge for us to be able to enter heaven, because the soul is indestructible. So it was in heaven in the beginning. After taking several rebirths, it has entered hell and started experiencing suffering. Now it needs to go back to heaven. God says, while you were in heaven, You were happy, blissful, peaceful, very rich. You were filled with everything, and you were um, highly intellectual. And we got all this because we were soul conscious. We considered ourselves to be the soul that is different from this body while we were in heaven. So, for instance, if a driver drives a car, he is not a part of the car, but still the car is under his control. Similarly, we drive this body from here. This body is under our control, but still we souls are not this body. They were so clear about this for the first 2500 years, which is why they didn't fall for lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego, these 5 vices. And the number 1 vice is lust or sex. We were not addicted to these 5 vices for the first 2500 years. We were that innocent and pure, just like God. That's how God created us in the beginning. But after the completion of the first 2500 years, what happens is we slowly forget ourselves to be these souls. Instead, we considered ourselves to be this body. Thereby, we become addicted to the sensual pleasures and these 5 vices, because of which we started committing more and more sins. So, obviously, we will have to endure punishment for that. So, these diseases, poverty, natural calamities, all these happen because of the sins we have committed so far. So God comes and says, and He guides us to come out of these sins. If only we can come out of these sins, can we ever experience peace and blissfulness again? Or else we will be continuously facing punishment after punishment because we have sinned so much in our past births. So what should we do to come out of those sins, to burn those sins? The method is very simple. Just consider ourselves to be this point of light, this soul that is entirely separate from this body, and connect our mind to God as much as possible. That's the only way. That is how the soul becomes full with powers. The power to resist lust, anger, greed, attachment, ego, everything. So that's the only way. In addition, you need to listen to God's word daily, because the whole world is going to bombard you with messages to make you addicted to these vices. Only God says you the things that you need to come out of these sins. So God keeps on telling that lust is the number 1 sin. That's the root cause for all your sufferings you've been facing for the past 2500 years. So to come out of it completely, you need to fill your souls with power. And the only way to do that is to remember God as much as possible. In addition, you shouldn't let anything to decrease the power of your soul. Whatever you see, hear in your surroundings, they are going to deplete your soul of its power. by inducing any form of vices, because the whole world is filled with one form of vice or the other. So you need to protect yourself. How do you do that? That is why God asks you to wake up as early as possible and start meditating on God and the knowledge given by God, which is called Murli. So that knowledge called Murli is available totally free of cost in all Raj Yoga meditation centers globally. Also, it is available online in websites, in YouTube, in audio format. You can check for the links in the description below this video. So start watching that Murli without missing even single day, because it's going to come in the most interesting, and it's going to be new daily, so that our mind never gets bored with it. So you need to remember those important Murli points, your favorite points from the Murli daily. So you need to think of it, churn over it in the daytime. So one thing you need to do is to remember God as a point of light. And the second thing is you need to churn the points that you read yesterday. So that is when you will realize a strange kind of happiness that you never experienced before. Because before, we have been experiencing pleasures only by coming in contact with the external world through the five senses. But now, for the first time, we are getting these pleasures without using any senses. That is why this is called Atintrik Sukh, which means the pleasure that doesn't use any of the senses. So we become corrupted when we start coming in contact with these erotic materials through our friends and media gradually. First starting with these love songs or love movies. It could be decent, but still it kindles your attention towards the opposite sex. So now you need to cut all those things. You should stop watching all sorts of movies. And nowadays in television programs, even for normal programs, girls tend to wear dresses that will tempt guys. So avoid them as much as possible. And even on street, if in these days all girls are wearing tempting clothes for whatever reason. So you can't control them, but you can control your eyes. You need to control your eyes, your senses. How do we do that? By repeatedly ordering them not to see the things that tempt you, not to listen to the things that tempt you. So those warnings are given repeatedly by God through Murli, and we need to repeat it in our mind. So we are reprogramming our mind so that it becomes pure as it was in the beginning. So what do we get out of that? We will start experiencing the pleasure and blissfulness that we initially possessed. Now we are in hell, the extreme hell, where people around us suffer all the time, both physically and mentally. But now you may suffer physically, but mentally you will be in an utter blissful state by reprogramming your mind, by filling your mind with the thoughts of God's knowledge alone. And by repeatedly considering yourself to be the soul, and also inculcate the habit of looking others also as a point of light. So it is the soul that looks through the eyes. It is the soul that speaks through the mouth. So you need to repeatedly tell this to yourself when you are alone, when you are speaking with somebody, so that you will start gradually believing that you are this soul and not this body. When you have this strong belief that comes naturally that you are not this body, then even when you confront a very beautiful, very tempting woman, you will not be tempted even a little bit. But it takes effort, long effort. You need to remember God as much as possible. You need to listen to Murli daily. You need to churn over the points of Murli all the time. You should never keep your mind free. If your mind is going to be free, it is going to be filled with lustful thoughts, because we have been doing that for the past 2500 years. It won't go that easily. So it needs hard work, but it's very easy. It's all the mind work. We need not do anything physically. We need to constantly remember ourselves as a point of light. Not only that, we were the true inhabitants of heaven. This world itself was heaven in the beginning. And those inhabitants were called deities, who are still worshipped by Hindus in India. Those deities are none but us in our purest form. So we are going back to our purest original form. What we have now, those vices, they don't belong to us. That's not our true nature. Our true nature is peace, bliss, happiness, and purity. So God comes every 5000 years once in the end of Kali Yuga to give this teaching and purify us and send us back to where we came from, that is heaven. So that is how God creates heaven and makes us eligible to enter heaven. So as opposed to all religious beliefs, this world was created out of nowhere. No, that's not true. This world exists forever. Only thing that happens is it's getting renewed every 5000 years. That's the work of God. That's called the creation of God. He recreates this world back to the new world called heaven. That is why God comes in the end as believed by all religions. So what he basically does is converting us from body consciousness to soul consciousness. It is by regaining soul consciousness that we regain all the wealth, health, everything that we possessed 5000 years back. We have lost all those things by becoming slaves of these vices. That is why we need to get out of it. And this brother is very lucky that he realized that he is slaves to these thinkings, and he wants to make sincere effort to come out of it. Among Hindus, there is a strange belief about shivling, the shape of shivling, but that's not true. But still, majority of them believe that it is the combination of male and female genitals, but that's not the truth. But still they believe that, but still they worship it. But now you can use the same belief system to convert your dirty fantasy into something divine. How? By reversing this belief system. Whenever you fantasize about the female or male genitals, based on what gender you are, you can convert that into Shivlingam. Shivling, God Shiva, who is actually a point of light. So the true meaning of shivling is God enters an old man's body in the end to give this divine knowledge, because the only difference between God and us souls is we enter this birth and death cycle that runs for 5000 years, and God doesn't. He stays away from it all the time. But still only God possesses this knowledge about this time cycle. So he needs to come to give this knowledge. For him to give this knowledge, he needs a body, human body. That is why he enters an old man's body and he names him Brahma, and he gives this knowledge through his mouth. So what we see in shivling is God Shiv at the top, like an egg-shaped, oval-shaped form. So that is Shiv. And the lower half represents the lotus mouth of Brahma, whom God enters and delivers this knowledge. So that's the mouth of Brahma. So God Shiva obviously is the father of all souls. But he gives this knowledge, he adopts us children through Brahma, because of which Brahma can be considered as mother, though he is a man. So that's the combination of mother and father, but not in a sexual way. It's the spiritual thing. But somehow Hindus believe that it's the combination of male and female genitals. It's okay. Now whenever you think about genital, which is the main inducing factor for lust, you can suddenly turn your attention to shivling and then to the real form of Shiva, which is a point of light in the golden red colored light world, which means you can visualize God as a golden, as a star shining in the golden red colored sky. That's how this place is and God is. And another thing, as I mentioned, you should cut television, magazines, anything that tempts you. So needless to say about porn, you should avoid it altogether. Just you have to have this determined thought. That's it. Determined thought. I will never watch porn again, no matter what. And the reason you have this temptation or the thought to watch porn is your soul becomes weak in the end of the day. That is why you need to go to bed early. Not only that, you need to have your mind busy with the positive thoughts. By positive, I mean the knowledge of God. Murli points. If you keep it busy, then it will always be active and powerful. So you will not have those lustful thoughts. So you need to be very cautious at every step. When you walk on the street, when you turn on the television, when you watch internet. So all of a sudden something tempting may pop up. Someone tempting may come in front of you. So only when you are cautious you can turn your eyes immediately away from them. You should. If possible, if you are a male, avoid watching female altogether, especially the tempting ones, even their faces, because while watching face, your mind will immediately start fantasizing about their body and it will take you to where you already were. So the more you conquer the lust by becoming more and more pure, the more is the chance that you enter heaven in the beginning itself, which means you will enjoy heaven for the full 2500 years. But if you are slack in your effort, if you are not that pure, if you have not that much control over your lustful thoughts, what happens is you will enter heaven only in the middle. Till then, you will be resting here after the world destruction that will happen in the end of Kali Yuga. So that will happen. That is why this third world war is being prepared. And we are saying these strange diseases and natural calamities, everything will happen for sure, like the last Kalpa. But now our only work is to remember God as much as possible and to consider ourselves to be the souls as much as possible. That's the only effort we need to do. Another important thing is due to the myth that it is normal for male to ejaculate in their sleep. People think it's normal, but that's not normal. That's not natural. It is only after filling our minds with these lustful thoughts, our bodies start ejaculating like that. You can control that by following the methods I mentioned earlier, by avoiding all sorts of tempting things, and by focusing your mind constantly on God. What will happen is you will still be ejaculating in the night, but not that frequently as before. For example, if you were ejaculating twice a week, now it would be reduced to once a week, then once in 2 weeks, then once in a month, then once in 2 months, then once in 6 months, then that's it. You will no longer be ejaculating. And the main reason the whole world is obsessed with lust is no religion says lust is a sin. That's the main problem. So only God says it's a sin. He says it continuously until the soul wakes up, because we are in a deep sleep state. God has come in the end to wake us all up. So that's the true meaning of what Bible says, that God will come in the end to wake us all from the cremation ground. But it doesn't represent the physical body, it just represents the soul. It is the soul that sleeps, that's almost dead of its original qualities. So God induces our souls to bring back its original qualities like love, peace, happiness. So due to this myth that it is natural for us to ejaculate in the night, then guys tend to think that anyway it's going to get ejaculated, so why not I enjoy by indulging in sex with a girl or by masturbation. So that's the number one reason the whole world has become addicted to this habit. Even girls have become addicted to this habit. So the moment you realize that it is not natural, that is when you will start making serious effort. Take my word for it, it is not natural. You can try for it. Within 6 months, you will see a significant amount of decrease in the nightfall, that is the ejaculation of sperm in the night. So sex is sin, no matter you masturbate or fantasize or see someone lustfully or doing prostitution or doing it with your wife. It is still a sin. Murder is a murder, whether you kill your own son or someone who is a total stranger to you. And it is the same for sex as well. But have a warning, because once you start on this journey to become pure, you will see the temptation coming after you with full force, whether it's lust or anger or anything, it will come. Because now the fight between you and Satan has started. Satan is nothing but these 5 vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment and ego, and that is called Ravan or Maya in Hinduism. Fight will happen, but have the courage to fight with it by holding on to God so firmly. Don't let his hand free, because it's only with the support of God we can conquer these 5 vices and regain what we have lost for the past 5000 years. Not only that, even in this birth we will experience the pleasure we experienced when we are surrounded by so much wealth and health. Now we don't have anything, but still we can experience the same pleasure, because in the end it is the pleasure and peace that matters, right? Even if someone is a billionaire but he has no peace of mind, so what is the use of the money, right? So now you experience peace and bliss, and everything you need to experience peace and bliss will follow you for sure, starting from this birth. For the next 2500 years you will be experiencing nothing but bliss and peacefulness all the time, non-stop. So you need to fantasize about heaven now instead of the nude body of men or women, because now you know for sure you have this ability to fantasize, right? Now use it for positive, so that whenever you fantasize about women or their part, now fantasize about how beautiful and divine those deities would be, I would be, after entering heaven. Just focus on where you want to go, instead of focusing on what you want to leave, right? You want to leave the hell for permanently, and cut yourself from the friends who speak temptingly. So give this knowledge to your wife so that even she cooperates, because their cooperation is also essential for your conversion. Well, you can do it on your own, but when you are doing it as a couple, it's going to be very easy. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching, and please like this video, leave your comments, and hit on the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet.